The next item on the agenda is the town council. Standby motion to approve excess levy for financial town meeting continue from March 22nd council meeting, relocated on the agenda.
Before we get to the general discussion, can I ask a question, Mr. President?
Yes,
maybe Chief can help us out. The standby motion to approve an excess levy. Let me see how I phrase this. It seems to me to be awkward to go to a financial town meeting and have them authorize exceeding the cap. And then it comes to the council and they have to make a motion to approve it. If it doesn't approve it, I mean, where are we? I mean, what can we do that lessens the tension that springs from this whole issue?
I don't know that there's a way to lessen the contention at this point. I think the question of interpretation of that statute is something that we've pretty much decided a judge is going to have to help us with. At this point, our interpretation of this statute is that the majority of the electors present would have to vote to approve the excess levy, and then it would have to come here. Having a standby motion seems to make sense so that if it's necessary, if it's needed, if it's wanted, it's already written. I don't know that there's a way to alleviate the contention right now. I think we need to have a judge.
When do we make this motion?
I don't think the motion has to be made unless somebody,
It doesn't have to be made at all.
That's
No,
right.
if somebody doesn't vote, if somebody at the financial town meeting doesn't pass a number that will exceed the cap, there is no reason for it. So to say to approve a standby motion, the motion to me would be made if someone voted for a number that exceeded the cap. Then, and I'm not even sure it's necessary then. If someone's told at the financial town meeting that a vote they're about to take would put them in excess of the cap, and they vote in the affirmative, is that not a vote to exceed the cap?
That's exactly my point, Mr.
Well,
President.
I mean, that's a legal question, but
This motion is a fiction. As I understand it, and this is the argument that I've heard at the town council, is that anybody can get up and make a motion with a number that exceeds the cap. That person doesn't have to explain what the basis of its number is. And then we, after the fact, or before the fact, if we're voting now, we pretend that we're explaining the basis on which that person raised the motion and on what basis he arrived at those numbers. That's a total fiction. For example, it says that it's based on the fact that the non-property tax revenues will lead to an increase in the tax levy by 4.5%, that we're doing this, quote, because the majority of the electors present and voting at the financial town meeting shall also approve the excess levy. We don't know what's going through that person's mind. If I followed the arguments that have been made at the town council, nobody has to explain the basis for their motion, and what we're trying to do in advance is try to explain the motion of a person we don't even know, we can't even identify.
my point is strictly that if someone gets up and proposes a number for the budget that we know, because we have the number of the 4.5% and what the total number is, if a motion comes from the floor that would exceed that number, I think the explanation has to be prior to a vote on the motion that that motion would in fact take us above that number, which is the cap. And in doing so, a vote in the affirmative could also be the vote to exceed the cap because they were told prior to taking the vote. So I'm not sure that we even need to have.
You know what?
That's right.
It's going to come up very quickly because we're all sitting here, we know that first vote is going to be a school vote, and the budget committee will say, we gave you an appropriation of $1. And I would anticipate that the chairman of the school board would get up and say, I make a motion of X. And I would anticipate at that point, we will be in a discussion, yes, we will exceed the cap. And so be it. I mean, so be it, the people at the financial town meeting will decide. I guess all we're saying is, this may not be a necessary motion.
Yeah, is it prudent for us to pass a motion like this without knowing what the numbers are?
I agree, I don't think this motion should be made now.
Well-
I think it's in the hands of the voters at the financial town meeting.
And I agree,
I
and I'll
think-
make a motion that
I
we
think that-
disapprove.
can I-
the
can I-
I'm going
No.
to allow the solicitor to give us some information
We
prior
have,
to.
we have written information from the solicitor already. It's their motion.
The statute is not just if the majority of the electors present approve an excess levy. The statute says shall also approve the excess levy. The first two paragraphs are a required finding in order to exceed the levy, and the majority of the electors present must approve that. But you've got to have the prior condition as the reason to exceed the levy. It just can't be that the majority of the electors vote to exceed it.
Mr. President, Mr. President, that condition is what Mr. Pike was giving us in writing earlier, where, and I quote, notwithstanding anything herein to the contrary, nothing in this policy shall be deemed to impair the authority of the financial town meeting to exceed the cap set forth in acts under articles so-and-so and such of the Constitution, Title 45 of the General Laws of Rhode Island. Which he then verbally went on to explain is that if the electors at the financial town meeting wanted to pass a budget above the cap, they were perfectly able to do that.
Okay.
That's
And
what it says.
and I go back to my assertion that takes us back to the bake sale ruling, which I think somebody's trying to figure out. If in fact a number is voted at the financial town meeting, which would exceed what the state would allow you to go over the cap, if in fact they would allow you to go over the cap, we would have to find another way to raise the money because it couldn't be generated through the tax levy. No,
I don't have that information.
Well, that's the reason for, I think, the vote we took last week to see if there was a number that we would be allowed to, so that information will be available at the financial town meeting.
Have we got a response to that request for just the information?
Jim?
No, the request is at the state level, and what's holding it up is the Department of Revenue has a new chief who started today, and the temporary chief has not, did not want to make that decision. What they wanted to do was have, the new chief involved.
And I think we have two different issues. One is, do we need the resolution? And I'll still make my motion that we vote this resolution down. The other question is, what happens if the financial town meeting passes something above the cap? That's I'll call it the bake sale scenario. That's a different issue than.
Can I make,
That's right.
can I make just a thought
I
on
made a
that?
motion, thank you.
All right.
I will
would-
second the motion.
See,
I have a motion and a second, now we're open for discussion.
Okay.
Don't go away, you'll be recognized.
I think it should be really a motion to table it, and not even tip our hand with regard to a disapproval. Because that may carry a connotation that the council will disapprove an excess levy. I think we should leave it to the financial town meeting or take no action on it. So I would like to persuade the colleagues to say we take no action on it.
But